An online food delivery guy was caught and fined 700 yuan. Life is really tough for him. This video posted online claimed that a food delivery worker was fined 700 yuan and had his vehicle confiscated, leaving him unable to earn any income for the month. As the year-end approaches, the vlogger warned others to stay cautious. Didn't I just show you this earlier? The fine is 2,000 yuan. According to the Air Pollution Prevention and Control Law of the People's Republic of China, burning straw in open fields during the no-burn period will result in a 2,000 yuan fine, no matter how much you burn. Whether it's just a little or a whole pile, you'll still be fined. The goal here is to send a message. Don't do it again. Earlier, you signed the conversation investigation records, admitting to it, didn't you? This police officer reportedly used the law as a pretext for imposing fines, and the individual, having signed the official documents admitting to the violation, had no choice but to pay. On December 13th, in Huainan City, Anhui Province, a villager was fined 30,000 yuan and had his pickup truck impounded after delivering diesel for his farming equipment. The Transport Enforcement Department claimed he violated regulations by transporting hazardous materials without the required permit. The incident triggered an online backlash, with many netizens calling it a blatant example of arbitrary fines. Critics argue that if purchasing diesel was illegal, the gas station selling it should be held accountable, not the buyer. Many pointed to local governments' financial troubles, accusing them of aggressively imposing fines to plug budget shortfalls. Chinese citizens have been voicing increasing frustration over these excessive fines. One woman tearfully shared her story of being fined for posting a notice on her own front door. Officials allegedly threatened to suspend her phone service if she refused to pay. Observers argue that the government's financial struggles have led to widespread crackdowns on minor infractions. Fines are being issued for trivial matters, like driving slightly over the speed limit, parking a little off-center, or riding electric scooters without helmets. Street vendors also report being heavily penalized, with one saying they were fined simply for selling pancakes. Critics claim that the authorities are justifying these crackdowns under the guise of maintaining order. In reality, they argue that the government's financial desperation has turned ordinary citizens into cash cows. Many netizens blame economic mismanagement for causing stagnation and unpaid wages for civil servants, leaving the public to bear the brunt of the government's budgetary woes. The backdrop to this wave of fines is a fiscal crisis at the local level. China's strict zero-COVID policies over the past 3 years severely drained local government resources. Even after restrictions were lifted, the economy continued to decline, with frequent reports of salary cuts hitting both businesses and public sector employees. In recent years, salary cuts for civil servants and government-funded workers have swept across nearly every province in China. Allowances and bonuses have been slashed or eliminated entirely. A civil servant in Zhejiang province, identified under the alias Tian Liang, revealed to overseas media in October that his income has dropped by over 20% in 3 years. These cuts, Tian explained, aren't made directly to base salaries but are disguised under various deductions. Tian also noted that the salary reductions are likely nationwide, although the impact in the western provinces is less severe. These regions rely heavily on financial transfers from the wealthier eastern provinces and additional borrowing to sustain operations and development projects. However, even in Zhejiang, a traditionally affluent region, heavy reliance on bond issuance has left fewer resources available for Western transfers. He warned that this deepening fiscal crisis could soon spiral further. Following significant salary increases for civil servants after 2014, particularly for grassroots officials below the county level, wages grew consistently until 2020. Between 2016 and 2018, civil servants saw regular increases, sometimes annually. However, this upward trend came to a halt in 2020, giving way to widespread salary cuts. Even economically developed provinces like Guangdong are now under pressure to reduce wages. Today, many civil servants no longer receive bonuses or allowances, and even basic salaries are increasingly uncertain. This includes critical personnel, such as a police, tasked with maintaining the government's authority. While former police officers are classified as civil servants, auxiliary police, who provide support but lack permanent positions, have been hit hardest. Reports indicate that by 2023, 30% of auxiliary police nationwide experienced delays in wages or allowances. In some regions, monthly wages fell below local minimum wage standards, and subsidies were often withheld. The severity of this issue was confirmed in 2023 when the State Council conducted an investigation into unpaid wages and allowances for auxiliary police. A vlogger reported that some regions have started cutting auxiliary police staff due to mounting fiscal pressures. Financial strain is so severe that even teachers' salaries in certain areas are delayed, let alone those auxiliary police. Starting in March 2023, the Chinese government began dismissing non-permanent staff across various sectors, with health, education, auxiliary police, and urban management departments facing the brunt of the layoffs. In some central and western provinces, even formal police officers reportedly have not been receiving their salaries. Meanwhile, police in eastern regions are facing wage cuts. A retired teacher from Tianjin, Ms. Yan, told Radio Free Asia that police salaries in cities like Tianjin, Nanjing, and Dalian have been reduced by 20%. A former civil servant from Zhuzhou City in Hunan added that the quality and efficiency of police work have declined noticeably. Issues that used to require in-person visits are now handled over the phone. Mr. Chen, a Hunan resident, told overseas media that staff at local police stations have been openly complaining about not receiving wages for several months. However, such grievances cannot be voiced publicly or even discussed on platforms like WeChat, as doing so could result in dismissal for violating political discipline. Authorities appear to be making every effort to suppress knowledge of this issue. Concerns have also arisen about wage cuts for firefighters. One vlogger recounted a long conversation with a professional firefighter who reported a 2,000 yuan reduction in his salary, nearly half his monthly income. He lamented that the cut left him unable to afford basic essentials like baby formula for his child. I think it's fair for wages in most jobs to be reduced if necessary, but for firefighters, whether they're on the front lines in monitoring roles, part of the national team, or professional firefighters, their wages should be the last ones to be cut. In the summer of 2024, many Chinese civil servants took to social media to air their frustrations, revealing that their salaries would be reduced by 30% across the board. On platforms like Xiaohongshu, several reported delayed or unpaid wages. Once regarded as stable and prestigious positions, these civil servants, who previously spent their days maintaining social order, are now struggling to collect their own paychecks. Critics have pointed out that the contradiction, while the Chinese government boasts of a stable and prosperous society, it cannot even afford to pay its police officers. Comparisons were made to Taiwan, where civil servant salaries remain steady and fiscal management is notably healthier. Some netizens sarcastically question China's claim of strength, asking, how can a country that struggles to pay its workers brag about being powerful? US-based human rights lawyer Wu Xiaoping stated that China's fiscal woes have left many local governments unable to pay salaries. Police and other stability maintenance personnel are also affected. Wu explained that unpaid wages could result in two potential outcomes. Either these workers will underperform, leading to a decrease in harassment or illegal detentions of petitioners, or local governments will pressure police to find their own revenue streams, which could result in more arbitrary fines and fees. A vlogger reported that in one financially strained county, civil servants had not been paid for 4 months. In response, local traffic police began imposing their own measures. Speed limit signs were lowered from 80 kilometers per hour to 40, and surveillance cameras were installed en masse. Police set up checkpoints along key routes, targeting trucks and fining drivers. Unable to avoid these main roads, truckers reluctantly paid the fees to avoid delays. They see us as easy targets, one driver lamented. In another video, a food delivery worker was shown breaking down and smashing his electric scooter after police fined him and confiscated his vehicle. Such incidents of sting operations have become increasingly common, with authorities imposing exorbitant fines on drivers and street vendors to boost local government revenues. According to a 2023 report by Yi Chai, fines and confiscated revenue surged significantly in 7 out of China's 16 provinces. Chongqing and Beijing saw year-on-year increases of 22.4% and 21.9%, respectively. Many local governments have since stopped publicly disclosing penalty-related data. Lu Chengliang, an associate professor at Suzhou University, reported that in 2022, China's total income from fines and confiscations reached 428.3 billion yuan, a 10-year high. By 2024, non-tax revenues, including government fines, continued to grow sharply. In his analysis, Liu identified two main reasons for this trend. One, local governments' over-reliance on land-related revenues for the past 2 decades, which left them vulnerable when the real estate market weakened. Two, many county-level regions, particularly in central and western China, lack independent fiscal sustainability. They rely heavily on transfers from higher levels of government, but as these funds dwindle, local governments turn to fines as a quick solution to fill the gaps. China's reliance on fines has long been criticized, with numerous reports of excessive penalties. One infamous case involved an elderly vendor who earned only 14 yuan selling substandard celery, but was fined a staggering 100,000 yuan by local market regulators. In 2021, a Chinese government-backed report revealed that a mountainous county in northern China collected over 30 million yuan in traffic violation fines in a single year, despite its total public budget revenue being just over 100 million yuan. By November 2024, videos circulating on social media showed large-scale closures of street-facing shops in Chaozhou and Shantou City in Guangdong Province. Previously bustling commercial areas and night markets had turned eerily quiet, resembling ghost towns. Even major international fast food chains like McDonald's and KFC were shuttered, prompting some to describe the scene as even quieter than a lockdown. The closures reportedly stemmed from a recent nationwide safety and fire inspection campaign ordered by China's State Council. Local shop owners expressed fear of fines as high as 50,000 yuan if violations were discovered. Under the dual pressure of steep penalties and stringent inspections, many chose to close their doors preemptively to avoid risks. Mr. from Henan told overseas media that police activity has intensified, describing the government's tactics as a way to scrape every last bit from the people. He noted that what once led to minor administrative detentions now frequently result in criminal detention. Even if charges don't stick, individuals are often held for months, with officials casting an even wider net. Fang claimed that detention centers are now overcrowded as police meet arrest quotas. Detainees are sometimes pressured to pay bail, only to face repeated arrests and further legal procedures. Amid mounting fiscal pressure, Chinese local governments have resorted to selling state-owned assets, colloquially described as selling off the family silver. Other measures include accumulating new debt, delaying payments, and increasing fines. The practice of cross-border law enforcement, where authorities target businesses in other regions for fines, has also drawn controversy. According to Huaxia Times, Guangdong has become a hotspot for such practices, with thousands of private enterprises affected since 2023. These cases often involve questionable profit-driven motives. Instances of fraud-like enforcement are also on the rise. In Shaoxing City in Zhejiang Province, for example, a person selling a luxury watch valued at 400,000 yuan had their bank account frozen and was detained under accusations of involvement in online scams. U.S.-based economist Huang Dawei explained that with land revenue dwindling and local governments struggling financially, fines have become the fastest and most liquid source of income. However, this reliance on penalties has fostered corruption and abuse of power. Huang warned that China's economy has entered a downward spiral. As tax revenues decline, authorities impose more fines, further strangling economic activity. Huang added that the economic downturn has worsened in 2024, leading to an increase in arbitrary fines. He warned that this approach risks creating a vicious cycle. As tax revenues decline, authorities impose more fines, further harming the economy. Chinese economist Li Hongqing echoed this sentiment, pointing to historical patterns. When governments face financial crises and tax revenues fall short, they inevitably resort to arbitrary fines and penalties. China's fiscal challenges are also tied to its massive bureaucratic system. A domestic report analyzing nationwide data concluded that from January to July 2024, China's fiscal deficit had already reached 5.7 trillion yuan. The report estimated that 40% of public spending is used to support 80 million civil servants, roughly 5.7% of the population. Former Guizhou University professor Yang Shaozeng criticized the system as early as 2017, describing it as funding the party with public money. He revealed that tax revenues and state assets were being used to support approximately 20 million full-time party officials and affiliated personnel annually, imposing an economic burden valued at 20 trillion yuan. Yang warned that if the system remained unchanged, it could eventually lead to societal collapse.